Hi there, Jesse Grimes here. I've got another video update for you. Before we get started on that though, I'd like to thank my newest patron, Erica Bailey, for her generous support. Thank you very much. On to the video. While Ernie and Erica were here, we made an unfortunate discovery. All of the straw bales we had used for the wall had gotten wet and were now filled with black mold. In the absence of straw for building the wall, I started working on other parts of the project. First I installed a sill underneath the window, and then I started work on the umbrella, which will insulate the ground in front of the house. These boards will help attach the tarps to the wall. Next I got back in the tractor and excavated more dirt out from in front of the walls. I wanted to make sure that the bottom of the umbrella was at least 4 feet underground. So I scraped out a big hole and then used a shovel to shape the ground to make sure that everything will slope away from the wall. The purpose of the umbrella is to shed water away from the house and keep the insulation and dirt beneath it dry, adding to the thermal mass around the house and helping to moderate the temperature changes of the winter and summer. Still lacking some of the materials we needed to finish even the umbrella and deck, we started working on the cob, utilizing some machine help to make preparing our materials easier. Here I am crushing some cow patties to make them easier to sift and soak. We spent a few days mixing these cow patties with dirt and water and smushing our toes around in the cob. We were able to finish a lot of the plastering on the downhill wall, but it can't all be finished until the straw bale wall is up. Lacking the materials to continue working on Allerton Abbey, I started working on my own house on my plot. Using some of my tractor time, I scraped away the topsoil to prepare the building site where my berm shed will go. This structure will be my shelter for the winter, and hopefully in the future it will turn into my workshop. When I was done, I was left with a vastly different landscape, a couple stumps that I couldn't get out with the tractor, and a huge pile of soil. Speaking of soil, Evan gifted us with a bunch of apricots he had picked from a tree, and Fred gave us some tips on canning. And on another night, we made sushi, one of Carolan's favorite meals. Just because we're living out in the woods doesn't mean we can't eat well. After many emails, we finally got a purchase order from the lumber mill. I was able to drive Ellie Mae down there and pick up a couple units of 2x6s and 2x4s for Allerton Abbey as well as our other projects. The next day, I was also able to get another load of sawdust to be used as insulation underneath the umbrella. We spread it out on the ground I had prepared, and then attached tarps to the boards that I had screwed into the walls. Then we laid the tarps out over the sawdust and covered it with dirt to complete the umbrella. On our next trip to Missoula to procure supplies, we saw some ads in the free section of Craigslist advertising fruit trees that needed to be picked. Once again, we were reminded that as far as Mother Nature is concerned, food is free. We drove back from Missoula loaded up with a bunch of fresh heirloom apples, all those plums you saw me picking, as well as a couple boxes of fresh vegetables and fresh greens that the grocery store had thrown out. Back at the lab, Carolan spent an entire day making preserves. She made a bunch of jars of delicious apple butter, some plum jam, as well as some pepper jelly. Everything that we didn't eat, we fed to Sir Chops, and he was one happy pig. Despite our gifts, Sir Chops escaped the next day, although he came back after a couple of days of living in the wild. Now that we had our lumber, I was able to start work on a deck that will cover and protect the umbrella. I built the subframe that was supported on stones which were all leveled out on a 2x2 pattern. Then I was able to start drilling in the decking. A lot of the boards we got weren't very pretty, so I had to cherry pick through the pile to get some good ones. Once I got all the decking in place, I trimmed out the front, and we now had a very nice place to sit. And the back of Allerton Abbey is looking a lot better. Although it's really nice to see this project move forward, with all the delays we've had, and considering the huge amount of work that's ahead of me, I'm having serious doubts whether I can finish this project as well as my own house before winter. It might be time to rethink my priorities.